All right, everyone. Want to make sure that everyone can see and hear me okay. It looks like my camera is just having an issue on. Let me see if I can get this switched around here. Looks like my camera is having an issue on Zoom. So give me just one moment. I'm going to see if I can get that camera issue fixed for just a moment, and then we will start right back up. Let's see if that will fix my camera. Okay, it looks like my camera might not get fixed, but can you guys hear me okay on Zoom? Let me know if the audio is good. Okay, it looks like you guys can hear me, so I'm just gonna keep going. If that ends up being an issue that you can't see me, let me know. But I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna just go ahead and get started on some EKG work. All right. So, first of all, I want to know, where is everyone joining from? So, let me know in the chat, where are you joining from? Yeah, I know you guys can't see me. For some reason, my camera, which I just tested and it was working. Oh, there we go. I think it's working. Can you guys see me now on Zoom? I think I got it. Amazing. I've never had that happen before, but today's the day. Looks like some of you are joining from Ontario, New York, Iowa, Austin, Texas, Arizona, Brooklyn. Awesome. Amazing. Looks like things are working. Hawaii. I'm a little jealous. Las Vegas, North Carolina, Missouri. Shout out to those in Missouri. That's where I went to nursing school and graduated. But now I live in South Dakota. It's super warm here today, which is really nice. I'm getting some of that heat, but I'm excited to have you all here. What I think is the coolest thing, we've got some of you from the Philippines and some from United Arab. The coolest thing for me is that nursing unites all of us. There's one thing that brings all of us together across the globe, and it is nursing and wanting to practice nursing. And it is the coolest thing every single time we do one of these. So I want to start off by just talking about the cardiac anatomy, because I think it's really important that we understand these basics. So whenever we think of an artery, what an artery does is it's going to carry oxygenated blood away from the heart. Okay, it goes away from the heart. So when we think about this, there's arteries are going to take from the aorta and go to the rest of the body. And then we have our veins, and they're going to carry deoxygenated blood toward the heart. Okay. Now there's one time that this gets reversed. Does anyone know where that is? What's the one time that this gets kind of flip-flopped? Let me know what that is. Let me know in the chat. Amazing. Looks like some of you passed in 24. Looks like some of you passed just recently with us on TikTok. Thanks for letting us know. Okay, someone said it in congenital diseases, but really what I'm talking about is the heart, the pulmonary arteries and the pulmonary vein. Because what does the pulmonary artery carry? The pulmonary artery carries what? It actually carries deoxygenated blood, and the pulmonary vein actually is going to bring oxygenated blood to the heart for it to then be pumped out. So those is the only time that it gets reversed. Now, the next thing I want us to really understand are the chambers of the heart. Do we understand the atria versus do we understand the ventricle? So when we look at the atria, that's what's really going to get that blood and then sends it to the ventricles. But when I think of an EKG, does anyone know how I would identify if it's most likely an atrial issue? Anyone know? What would I look at? What part of an EKG would I look at that would tell me, hey, there's something wrong with the atria? The P wave. Now, how about the ventricles? What would I look at that tells me, hey, there's an issue with my ventricles? The QRS most often. Okay. So this understanding the chambers of the heart tells me already where, my issues might be when I look at my EKG. Really good job. And then I really want us to understand the blood flow, because understanding this blood flow is really important when we think about where to kind of start. We always want to start with that venous system, the body first. So if we think about it, the tissue, it used up all of that oxygen in the body, and now it's looking for more. So what happens is the blood needs to be reoxygenated. So to do this, it needs to go to the lungs. But kind of like when you travel just about anywhere, there are no direct flights. The blood, it needs to actually make a stop in the heart first. And this is because it's the pump. It's the center of that circulatory system. So if the heart is bringing deoxygenated blood from the body to the heart, which route do you think it's going to take? Are we going to go through veins or arteries? And we just talked about this. Veins or arteries, what do we think? What do we think? Good. You got it. It's the veins. They're responsible for the blood return to the heart. So the veins are really pertinent to the right side of the heart. We've got the superior and inferior vena cava. These are massive veins that are going to bring blood flow back in. Then the arteries, right? When we think about these, really the massive artery is our aorta. That's what really allows that blood to pump to the rest of the body. The other big thing I want you to understand is systole versus dystole. And what is the difference here? Systole is going to be the squeeze, where dystole is what? What do you think? I have no idea what Testament is, so I don't know what that movie is. Good. All right. Dystole is where it relaxes. So everything kind of relaxes at that state. So really good job. That relaxation occurs. Why does relaxation matter? Why is this step important? Let's think about it. Why does this step matter? Because it allows it to fill. And if it doesn't fill with blood, we're not going to have a good, effective squeeze. Now, does anyone know what supplies the heart with its own blood flow? This is really important. What allows the heart to fill with its own blood flow? Not this exact lecture is on Archer Surepass, but something really similar is. So our coronary arteries, the coronary arteries are what will actually give the heart muscle blood flow. Why does that matter? Well, if there's a blockage there, if there's a problem with the coronary arteries, that is what impacts that heart from getting the blood and therefore oxygen that it needs. All right. I want to take a moment just to understand action potential, because this also does help us understand the EKG. So when we think about an action potential, I want us to think about electricity of the heart. We're talking about the explosion of the electrical activity that kind of sends a message to our heart to contract. That's the action potential. It's also known as like the impulse is the other way that I would think about it. Now, there are two phases. Does anyone know the two phases before I show them up on the screen? What are the two phases of an action potential? Now, someone asked, hey, is this lecture going to be saved? It does get saved to our Facebook and our YouTube channel. So if you check out our Facebook or our YouTube, it is there. So our action potential, we have two aspects. We have depolarization. That's what's going to lead us to systole. And then we have repolarization, which is going to lead us to dystole, okay? So depolarization and repolarization, those are the two kind of key words that I want you to understand and to know. Now, if you're like, hey, Rachel, this is helpful, like understanding at this level is helpful. It's really why we built Archer for nursing school. It's why we have a whole nursing school product that goes with you while you go through nursing school, because we want to make sure that you have all the additional resources you need, especially if you're struggling with a concept like EKGs. So next, I want to go through our ECG basics. And so we're going to go ahead and talk about what does the ECG actually mean. So when we think about this, we have three parts. We have our P wave, we have our QRS, we have our T wave. Those are kind of like the three main ones. What happens at the P wave? So if we're looking right here, This is atrial depolarization. And then we get to that QRS, and this is where that ventricular depolarization happens. And then we get to the T wave, and that ventricle repolarizes. Now, you don't necessarily need to memorize that. It's just helping you to understand what is occurring at each of these stages, okay? And when we look at this PR interval, okay, does anyone know why I would measure a PR interval? What would be the reason I would check this out? What kind of block might this PR interval tell me? Oh, so glad you passed using Archer. Thanks for letting us know. It actually, the PR interval will tell me a first degree block, okay? It will tell me if someone has a first degree block. If the PR interval is prolonged, if it's over 0.2, then I know that there's a first degree block. First degree blocks are really common. We most often don't do anything for them. So now we have to understand, okay, we know the different parts of the EKG, but how do we then measure it? Because this matters. I just said 0.2. Well, what does 0.2 actually mean? So when you look at a strip, you'll see these like big darker lines. These darker lines are telling me it's been 1 second that has occurred. That's what those are telling me. And what makes up these, let me show you here. This is where these big lines, that tells me a second, okay? These are all 1 second parts of the strip. But what makes up that 1 second, let me go back here, is you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of these middle-sized boxes. So when I look at here, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's just super zoomed in at the example that we're looking at together, okay? So what we're going to see is 1 second, which is the dark lines that I showed you right on that big strip, is going to be made up of 5 of these, I call them the medium-sized boxes, because then we have these little boxes. These little boxes are just 0.04 seconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these strips. We're going to look at the rate, and all of that is going to matter, okay? So let's go ahead and let's talk about ECG interpretation. I recommend you take a screenshot of this slide because we're going to reference it a bunch over the next 10 minutes. So I want you to take a screenshot, take a picture, get this slide, because these are the 5 steps you will take every time you go to figure out an EKG, okay? And there's not a handout for this lecture since it's a free webinar. I don't have a handout, but most of this content lives in our on-demand. Okay. I see your question, Clarissa, about seeing your post, but I don't know what else you asked. But yes, I'm seeing your responses. But there's just one of me and a lot more of you guys, like we're at a couple hundred people. So if I don't respond to something, just ask it again because I might miss it. All right. So number 1, we're going to ask ourselves, is there a P wave? And we're going to go through these 5 steps together. So let's actually practice this. So is there a P wave for every QRS complex? This is what this first question really looks like. And I'm going to show you an example of when we have a P wave and when we don't. So this is our P wave. We have a P wave for every single QRS. But when I look at this next example, I have a P wave, but then there's not a QRS. So my first question is there one P wave for every QRS? Yes or no? Because this is going to help clue me in to what is happening. Okay. Then the second question, is the PR interval 0.12 to 0.2 seconds? And so what I'm measuring is right here. I'm measuring the P to the start of the QRS. Okay. So when I measure that, I don't ever want it to be longer than one of these blocks. But look here. Here we can tell that it is longer than one of those blocks, which tells me that I have a prolonged PR interval. Okay. Then I look at my next one. Is the QR complex less than 0.12 seconds? Now, we already said this. If we're looking at the QRS complex, what do we look for? A ventricle issue. This is a ventricular problem. But when I measure how many tiny boxes this is, it should be less than 3 of these itty bitty boxes. And I know they're so tiny. And someone said, hey, is this bottom one supraventricular tachycardia? No, it's actually not. Does anyone know what this bottom strip shows? It's tombstones or a fireman's hat. And if we see either, red flags should be going up. This is VTAC. Very good job. This is VTAC. It can be pulseless or with a pulse. So we're either cardioverting or we're going to do high quality CPR. Then the fourth question I'm going to ask is the rate between 60 and 100. What does this tell me? Why do I ask this fourth question? Am I Brady or am I tachy? Because that's going to cue me into what's going on. And then the fifth question is the rhythm regular? Now, how do we, let me go back. I think I skipped a step that I needed to explain, and I'm sorry. Let me go back for just a moment. How do I know what the rate is? Well, I know that this is a 6-second strip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have a 6-second strip. So then all I need to do is I just count the QRSs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then I multiply it by 10 because I'm looking at a 6-second strip. So if I were to look at 60 seconds or 1 minute, we would just multiply by 10. So this rate is 90. But it would tell me, are we Brady or are we tachy? And then is the rhythm regular? This is going to tell me, am I in sinus? Okay, because sinus requires that our R to R is regular. The other thing that it will tell me is there are certain rhythms that have a pattern to them. So when I think about it, is the rhythm regular? Something we're going to look at in just a moment is we might see something like a flutter. And when we look at a flutter, okay, when we look at a flutter, we're going to notice a pattern. And so I would say, hey, this rhythm is what? This rhythm is regular. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's practice. Who's ready to actually look at some strips and determine what they are together? And then the titles are right on there. So it does make it a little obvious, but I want to show you what we're looking at. Everyone ready for that? Do we understand the 5 steps? Okay, any questions before we move forward? All right, looks like we are ready to go. If you have a question, drop it just right in that chat, Elizabeth. That'll be the quickest way for me to answer you, but ask that question. All right, so I'm just going to show you normal, because if you understand normal, then you're going to say, okay, now I know what it looks like when it's not normal. So let's go ahead. Let's look at this together. So the first step is to look at our P wave. So yes or no, do we have a P wave for every QRS? We're just going to put yeses and nos in the chat. Okay, good. For the individual who's a little confused, did you just hop on? If you just hopped on, you probably missed a little bit. That's okay. We're going to go through each of the steps. All right. So we're seeing yes here. We're saying there is a P wave for every single QRS. Okay. Now our second step is our PR interval between 0.12, 0.12 and 0.2. So is my PR interval less than one of these boxes? As long as it's less than one of these boxes, we can say yes. Good. Everyone's like, yep, we're good here. So we're saying our P wave is normal, our PR interval is good. Is our QRS less than 3 of these small boxes wide? Or is it wide and bizarre? Yeah, it's less than 3 of these tiny, tiny boxes, which even my dot is about the same size, okay? It's less than that, so we're saying this is all good. Our rate here, I think someone already said it, was 90, but let's count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We take that 9 times 10, and it's 90, which tells me this is a normal rate. And then the final step is to check, is our R to R regular? So we're just measuring from here to here. And honestly, guys, you can eyeball it, okay? That looks pretty regular to me, so I'm saying yes to that last question, which tells me I'm in a normal sinus rhythm because it's totally normal. Now, someone said, hey, how do we count the QRSs? Well, I know that this is a 6-second strip because these dark red lines are showing me where there's a second. So because I know that this is 6 seconds, to get a full minute, I would just multiply it by 10. And most strips that you see are 6 seconds. But what you can do is you can actually count where those darker lines are to make sure you have 6 seconds. And then you can count from there to make sure you're looking at just the right portion of the strip. All right. Now, everything here is the same, but there's one thing different, okay? There's one thing different. What's the difference here? We have a P wave for every QRS. Our PR interval is normal. Our QRS is normal. Our rate is still our regularity, okay? We have a regular rhythm. What's different though here? The rate. So let's practice again. How do we count the rate? Well, we're just going to go ahead. We're just going to look at these QRSs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what's our rate here? It's 50. Everything else was normal, which means everything else is sinus, but things are slowed down. So it's sinus bradycardia. So I will tell you guys, now not when I'm presenting, but let's say I'm just working here. I'm sitting, I'm doing work. Let's say I'm not presenting. My resting heart rate is in the 40s, okay? Typically like 48 is where it sits. So knowing that my resting heart rate sits around 48, okay, would you guys do anything? Is there anything you would need to do for me at a heart rate of 48? All right. Everyone's like, no. Someone's like, give you atropine, right? What should we do? Well, what I would say is no, we're not going to do anything because this is normal for me. Now, if I presented with dizziness, I was unsteady on my feet, then absolutely we should be doing something, okay? But if someone is asymptomatic, they're not showing any symptoms, we're good to go, okay? But atropine is typically the cause. Now, if they have really severe bradycardia, sometimes they do have to use a pacer. All right, now we've got our next strip. Our P wave, it's good. Our PR interval is good. Our QRS is good. What's the difference here? The rate again. And what do we notice? It's really quick. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 QRSs in a 6-second strip, which means this heart rate is around 140. So because of this, we see that our R to R is still normal. If I were to measure my R to R out, this would be regular. I'm still in sinus, but now I'm in sinus tachycardia, okay? We all see that difference. Sinus tachycardia there. All right. So next I want to look at kind of our atrial issues. Now, the one atrial issue is going to be confusing because it has ventricular in the name, but I'll show it to you and I'll help you try to understand it. The first one I want to look at is a flutter. So number one, the P wave. Is there a P wave for every QRS that you can easily recognize? No, it's kind of hard. It looks like a sawtooth. Like I can see this sawtooth, right? But it's not the most clear that I can see, okay? Now, can I measure a PR interval here? Is there any PR interval to measure? There's really not. There's no PR interval for me to measure, but my QRS looks normal. Now, my atria here is quivering. It's going quiver, 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 quiver. If someone has a flutter or a fib, what do we need to make sure they're taking? What do we need to make sure that they are on when they have a flutter or a fib? They need to be on some type of blood thinner. Some type of blood thinner. And the reason why is because when their atria just quivers, the bottom of the atria will actually get blood clots. And those blood clots sit there, but if they dislodge, what happens? Now we're at risk for an embolism. We're at risk for strokes, depending where those are at, okay? So there's a huge risk. That's why they need to be on a blood thinner. Warfarin's really common just because it's really cheap and insurance covers it, but it's not always warfarin. It can be different blood thinners as well. Now, that atria, it's just quivering, which means that rate can look all over the place between that atria, that ventricle, and then this more often than not is regular. But it's not always regular. It can be irregular, but more often it has a pattern. We see that sawtooth. And so a flutter, okay, is what we would recognize with the sawtooth. It's an atrial issue. It's an issue with the P wave. Do we all see that? We all see the P wave. We all see how this is atrial in nature. All right, so now let's look at our AFib, okay? Now with AFib, what we have here is it looks like we handed my 3-year-old a crayon and she just like scribbled, is really kind of what it looks like. So when we look at our P wave, can we measure this? Can we identify the P wave with every QRS? We really can't measure it. We really can't identify it very well. Our QRSs still look normal. There's not any that are super wide, but the atria rate is even higher. It's typically above 400. Like that atria is really quivering. But when I measure my R to R, does this at all look regular? Is this even close to regular? Like, look at that. It's not even close. So AFib will be very specifically irregular. There's no pattern. It's not going to look like a sawtooth. And that's the key difference. Do you all feel like you can distinguish between AFib and A flutter? Do you all feel like you can distinguish that difference? Okay, I'm seeing yeses. Oh, I'm seeing some no's. Okay, let's go back. I want to make sure you can distinguish this. Let's go back for a moment. Look at the difference. Do you see the pattern? We see a sawtooth here compared to AFib. The regularity is gone. It looks like really just scribbling in between those QRSs. Can we now see the difference? For those that initially said no, do we now see it? Okay, I'm seeing yes, seeing the differences now. Perfect, amazing. Now we have one other thing that fits in this bucket, and it's actually called supraventricular tachycardia. Now, you're probably thinking, wait, how is this an atrial issue? It has ventricular in the name, which I know it gets confusing. But what I like to remember is, hey, we have a lot of QRS complexes here. The heart rate is going to be really high. And so what we see with SVT is typically that the heart rate is above 150. But these P-T waves are actually blended. We can't recognize the P waves or the T waves. They're blended into one wave. So the difference between SVT and sinus tachycardia is in sinus tachycardia, I can identify a P wave, a QRS, and a T wave. Can I identify all three of those parts here in SVT? Can you see a clear P and T wave? No, we can't see that clear PT wave. And so because we can't see that clear PT wave, well, then we have supraventricular tachycardia. Do you guys see the difference? Let me know if we see the difference between SVT and sinus tach. These are big that you can tell between the two. Okay, awesome. It looks like you guys are like, yes, seeing the difference for the most part. Okay, let's take a look at them. So here's SVT. Let me go back. And here's sinus tachycardia. Now do we see the difference? Do you see how I can identify the P, the QRS, and the T wave? It's just quick. But then when I go back to SVT, I can't see those three differentiators anymore. That goes away, okay? So now let's go ahead and look at one more thing, because I know we're about out of time. So I want to look at one more thing together. And that is going to be asystole. Okay, this is the last one I'm going to look at. And if you do have the Archer platform, or we have an EKG small group, we cover this a lot more in depth. And we would go through a lot more, like the heart blocks, our ventricular issues, all of that would get covered. But what do you notice in this strip? What do you notice here? There really isn't a whole lot going on. I can't measure anything, and this is asystole. And what I wanted to touch on is, can we shock asystole? Are we able to shock anything here? No. So what do we have to do? What is the important thing that we are ready to do? Good. You guys got it. Absolutely. You got it. Nice job. We have to do high quality CPR. All right, I'm going to change my screen here. Give me just 1 second to get up the new screen. Make sure everyone can see it. And I just want to show you a couple things about Archer. Who is Archer now, or who's ready to take your NCLEX? Anyone have Archer? Maybe you're using something different. Anyone interested in Archer? So I kind of want to show you guys now because we actually have a really good deal going on. So if you go to our NCLEX RN or NCLEX PN page and you maybe don't already have Archer, but you're really interested, now's the time to buy it. This is one of the best sales we do all year long. It's our Nurses Week sale, and it only goes till tomorrow. So I would highly, highly recommend, if you're like, okay, I'm thinking about Archer, if you go to our NCLEX RN or NCLEX PN pages, this will come up and it'll say get 20% off now. Our code is specific to our SurePass. It's Nurses Week 26. So it will show you all of the products that code works on. So it works on our NCLEX prep, it works on our nursing school, as well as our advanced practice or our CCRN certification. So you can get that 20% discount on any of these, okay? Now, it doesn't work if you're extending. It only works if you already have a product. But I did want to show that in case anyone was interested. And if you're using something else to prep, that's okay too. But I did want to show you what Archer offered, okay? Amazing. Someone just said, you helped me pass my NCLEX exam 4 years ago. You know, I've been at Archer about 4.5 years now. So you would have been probably one of the first that I actually worked with. Now, if you guys have any questions, if you need anything, our email is nursing@archerreview.com. You are welcome to email us if you're like, Rachel, hey, I need a little help. I'm not confident in this. Or do you have something that could really help me in this? But the other thing we offer, and we have a ton of openings right now, is our private tutoring. Normally, we fill up really fast for our private tutoring, but we intentionally added a lot of extra this month, knowing that we have a lot of people about to take their NCLEX. So you can actually look at our NCLEX tutoring or our nursing school tutoring, and you can see all the different things that are coming up. We've got private sessions, we've got small group sessions, you've got tons and tons of options depending on what would fit your need the most. So feel free to check those out. Unfortunately, the discount doesn't work there, but it can work there. And again, if you can't find something, if you need something, let us know. You can reach out to us at nursing@archerreview.com. But this is how you can find that tutoring. And again, to book that discount, you just go to Archer Review Tutors, go to our NCLEX page, RN or PN, and then you can go ahead and get that 20% off on any of these packages here. So our SurePass, our nursing school. So if you click it, it'll show you which packages. And then if you want to change the length of days, you can just go ahead and click whatever amount of days that you want. So that's how you can do it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with me over the last 30 minutes. I know I went a little over in time, but you all are amazing. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. I'm rooting for all of you as you go take your board exams, finish up nursing school, or are ready to take the summers off. But know that Archer, we're here for you at every stage of the journey. We want to see each of you reach whatever goals you have in nursing. But I hope you have an awesome Monday, and we'll see you next time.